Please note that all attendees today will be muted and chat and video disabled. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the program.
Hello. Welcome to this year's version of the Jewish National Fund's Women for Israel Luncheon. We're really happy that you've been able to join us today. I'm Lauren Halpern, and I'm co-chairing this event with Gail Rosenthal. I'm a proud member of the Jewish National Fund's Women for Israel Giving Society. We're joined today by women from all over Texas to hear from our special guest, member of Knesset, Sharon Haskell, who will join us live from Israel shortly. It's 8 p.m. there. We're all here today because we deeply support the state of Israel and the Jewish National Fund's strategic vision to ensure a strong, secure, and prosperous future for Israel's land and for its people. So, Israel has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, because it was always a part of our family discussions. My mom, who you're seeing on your screens right now, moved there between the ages of 13 and 15. So as I was growing up, our family conversations would detail parts of her memories that were vivid and colorful, like going to the shuk with her friends to buy rings, and the time she spent on the Ulpan with her brother David learning Hebrew, as well as memories from their neighborhood of Kavash Mariahu, just north of Tel Aviv. So I was really excited to be able to visit Israel as well when I was 19. I went on a teen tour, and for 6 weeks, I traveled all over Israel, doing all the things that kids on teen tours do: hiking and climbing the Masada, posing at the top of it, working on a kibbutz for a week, picking pears and cleaning the kitchen and eating my weight in Nutella. And I had a really good time. However, like most 19-year-olds, I didn't really appreciate my time in Israel until a few years later. In fact, I remember having an aha moment standing in a 600-year-old church in Western Europe 4 years later, thinking 600 years, this isn't very old at all. And that is when I fell in love with Israel. I remember thinking about the history I had seen just a few years before, the thousands upon thousands of years of history that the Jewish people had created in Israel. And so in the last couple of years, I've been able to take my kids back and start to share that with them as well, and as they say, generation to generation. Today, as we're together, I'd like you to think about when you first fell in love with Israel. As we listen to the Minister of Knesset, Sharon Haskell, I encourage you to recall your first exposure to Israel and think about what you're here today, or why you're here today in support of it. So I hope you enjoy our program and this virtual community in support of Israel.
Good afternoon. My name is Gail Rosenthal. I'm a member of the Austin Board of Directors and the National Water Task Force, and I'm a major donor to Jewish National Fund. You all know that the Jewish National Fund is a long-standing organization founded in 1901 by Theodor Herzl to bring the Zionist dream of a Jewish state to fruition. Until a few days ago, I was prepared to share with you stories and images of JNF's grand vision to grow the population in Israel's periphery by 1 million. Excuse me. I'll just mention, if anyone has technical difficulties, this program will be rebroadcast 15 minutes after the program. Until a few days ago, I was prepared to speak with you about JNF's grand vision to grow Israel's population in the periphery by 1 million people. But over the past month, we have been forced to adjust our lives to a new reality. And while the new reality is hopefully short-lived, I must tell you that JNF did not skip a beat. JNF, a $100 million nonprofit which serves beneficiaries across the globe, pivoted with speed and efficiency to address the sudden urgency of Israel's new challenges. So rather than share with you my stories about JNF's amazing day-to-day work, I want to tell you briefly what JNF is doing right now in light of and in spite of the current state of affairs and the extraordinary action that it is taking right now in Israel. First and foremost, food. It's not so easy to call DoorDash in the middle of the Negev. So JNF has devised a mechanism for delivering food supplies to residents of the small communities in the south and north of the country. And for Passover, we secured over 200 seders in a box to new Olim from the US who immigrated to Israel 6 weeks ago. We've launched an online marketplace to help local businesses showcase their goods and artisan products to American consumers. We're supporting hundreds of job seekers in isolated communities to reposition themselves for new employment opportunities that will arise in the coming months. We're providing health care and supervision for the children of Israeli doctors and nurses while they spend extended hours tending to the sick. At Ale Negev, our rehabilitation village in the south, residents have been divided into small groups in contained areas, and we are increasing their respiratory treatments to prevent pneumonia and hospitalization. And most impressively, within 24 hours, we chartered an entire El Al Boeing 787 Dreamliner to bring home 217 US high school students from the Alexander Muss High School in Israel. This is really a story that you have to read about to grasp the magnitude of this $500,000 effort. JNF will continue the construction of schools, medical centers, homes, and yes, bomb shelters across the periphery of the country. But as donors, we should all be immensely proud that JNF has found ways to provide critical support in times of critical need. JNF was on the ground long before COVID-19, and we're there now, and we will be there when the world begins to turn again.
Greetings. My name is Susan Farber, and I'm pleased to join you from Phoenix, Arizona on a bad hair day. I represent JNF National Lay Leadership. And like Gail, I had prepared a speech for you today to talk about JNF's work in Israel, which includes new homes, jobs, and an infrastructure throughout the periphery of the country. But something happened a few days ago that gave me the chills. I received a call from the young man on your screen. His name is Yedidia Harush, and he lives in Halutza, which is a small community in the Gaza envelope, a region that I've come to love and support through Jewish National Fund. He called to check on my family, knowing my husband Stephen is a physician and is on the front line of treating the coronavirus. I told him we were fine, and when I in turn inquired about his family, he became quiet. After a pause, he said his family was okay, but the sirens went off the day before in Sderot, a neighboring border community. He told me about Nira, a lovely woman who lives there, and she had a dilemma when the sirens started. You see, Nira's son has asthma, and she did not know should she run to the community bomb shelter, which you can see on your screen, and risk exposing her son to the coronavirus, or keep her family home and pray that a Katyusha rocket doesn't land in her living room. We've all faced challenges over the last few weeks, but now I think of Nira and her son. And yet, even as difficult as life is there, everyone who lives in the Gaza envelope communities will reassure you that they are strong and resilient. They have lived through some horrible times, but they are there to stay and protect Israel's borders. While we are all looking for ways to help our own communities through these challenging times, I cannot forget our Israeli family who is also battling the virus. We have a unique opportunity to support our homeland today to ensure its future for tomorrow. Women for Israel is a dynamic group of female philanthropists who share a passion for building a prosperous future for the land and people of Israel. We are mothers, daughters, sisters, and friends, and when Israel calls for our support, we stand up individually and collectively and say, you can count on us. JNF has met with every Israeli affiliate we support and asked 2 questions. What do you need and when do you need it? Their responses have formulated a list of immediate needs. You can see on the screen the impact you can make today by supporting Jewish National Fund at a number of different levels. Won't you join me and the Women for Israel with a gift to support our Israeli family today? Following this program, an email will go out with a link to this page where you can make your gift online. And of course, you can always call the JNF office at 512-410-1438. Thank you for your attention, and more importantly, thank you for your support.
Now it is my privilege to introduce a highly accomplished young woman. She is a champion of social causes, active in environmental and water issues, animal rights, and other quality of life concerns. She is a patriot, having served in the Israeli border police, risking her life in dangerous areas during the Second Intifada. She is multi-talented, having studied theater in Israel and the United States, veterinary nursing in Australia, and political science back in Israel, becoming an accomplished leader. And she is a rising political star as the second youngest member of Knesset, appointed by the Likud party to Danny Danon's seat when he became ambassador to the United Nations. Please welcome, live from Knesset in Jerusalem, member of Knesset, Sharon Haskell.
Hello. Good evening to all the incredible women's of JNF community in Texas and all around America. It's a great pleasure to be with all of you today. I've made a little overview of some of the things that Israel's going through in recent months as well. But as I know that this is addressed towards women, I would like to start maybe with my own little personal story about leadership. I think that women should be in more position of power, not just here in Israel, but all around the world. Women have this certain special inner strength, mental strength, to carry on through going through very difficult situation. We know how to get the job done. And as I see more and more also in my parliamentary work, there's less ego and more concentration on how we look after the next generation, our children. Our Jewish history is really full with incredible female leaders. It goes all the way to the biblical time with Miriam and Yael and Deborah, and it goes all the way through our history to Golda Meir, our first female prime minister. My journey, I think, started in my army service. I volunteered in the army to a position of a combat soldier. It wasn't very common back then that women serve in those positions as combat soldier. It was also a very difficult period of time. It was 2002. It was the time of the Second Intifada when we had many suicide bombing attacks and many attacks on buses, restaurants, bars, and it was a very difficult time. But I think overall the military experience, except of obviously defending and protecting my country and my family, was one of the most empowering experiences I had as a woman. Not just to understand my physical and my mental capabilities, because during the military, you really understand how far you can push yourself, how far you can push your body, how far you can push your mental ability, how you can achieve anything you'll put yourself as a goal. You will be able to achieve it. It wasn't just an amazing experience for me, but it was also an amazing experience for males who were serving with me, seeing how women that serves together with them are able to get the job done, whether it was arresting terrorists or dispersing violent demonstrations or just the routine checkups that we had to do. It wasn't just an empowering experience for me, the military service here in Israel as an individual, but I think for so many women and community, those positions are. I did command a course, and I was also a sergeant for new soldiers. One of my soldiers was the first female Israeli Bedouin combat soldier. Now, you need to understand, a Bedouin female usually at the age of 17 would go and marry off to a man as even a first, second, or third wife. They'll bring children. It was so important for her to go and serve her country, to defend her country, and to really feel like she's making something out of her life, that we accepted her and we went through with her a very difficult process for her, for her family. Obviously, the Bedouin is a closed community, and there were threats on her family. We dealt with it because every woman, no matter what culture or religion she's here in Israel, should have the opportunity to decide her own life and what she wants to do. I'm also very proud to have three actually female soldiers who were some of the first to serve in elite units in the military as well. So the military has built many women. For me, it was a very empowering experience. Later on, I worked as a veterinary nurse. I worked with an NGO rescuing wildlife. This was a very interesting and amazing experience as well. It's definitely prepared me for the real Israeli zoo here in the Knesset, in the parliament. And I think that going through acquiring all these tools that I have through life have really prepared me for life in politics, that also here in Israel is very dominated mainly by male, and you need to know how to push your elbows a lot of the times as well. So I'll give you a little overview of what's been happening a little bit in Israel as well, because we actually, for the past few months, Israel has been through some major challenges, not just our regular or routinely or usual security challenges that Israel's facing through its border with Iran. We had some major issues with Iran, obviously. Trying to pass some weapons and equipment throughout Syria and Lebanon that we had to also disable that. That's usually a routine challenge that we are facing and that we're dealing with. But we also had three more challenges. The first one is the political one. For the past year, we've been in one of the longest historical sort of political challenges. We went into 3 elections, and I'm very happy to tell you, if you don't know yet, that about 2 days ago, the Prime Minister signed with Benny Gantz on a coalition agreement, and we are building now a unity government. It creates a lot of pressure here in the Knesset, in the committee. We spent quite a few days, and next week as well, here in the Knesset in Jerusalem, in order to to see and create this unity government that our people in our country so desperately need right now. Because we're dealing with two major challenges. The first one is the health one with the coronavirus, and obviously the other one is the economical crisis that is following the health crisis that we're dealing with at the moment. Obviously, different country needs to treat differently the crisis, and we're all sort of in the same kind of pot. But Israeli culture and the Israeli society had to deal with it a little bit different as well. Obviously, Israel is culturally a very warm society, which creates also more extreme risk of infecting more people. Many of you have been to Israel. You know that it's very, very crowded. The lines usually don't go one after another. It's sort of like a triangle, and whoever gets first gets served. And it is a cultural thing. It is warm, and it's very close contact. A lot of hugs, a lot of close contact, but that's also a risk during a pandemic like a coronavirus. Another issue is that most of Israel is built, if I would compare it maybe as a small New York. So we deal with big cities, crowded places, many buildings, a very dense population, using same public transport. Many Israeli citizens are using public transport, versus obviously Austin. You have the center of the city, but much of your city is also spread in houses, and it does create a different challenge that we have to deal with treating the coronavirus pandemic as well. So what is our main goals that we set out in order to minimize the spread of it? So our goals right now are to spread the disease as slowly as possible. The slower it goes and passes from one person to another, the more we are certain that our medical system will be able to deal with those patients that are coming in. Obviously, we're extremely concerned. We want the least dead possible. We've seen what happened in countries like Italy and Spain and France, and we do not want to get to a situation and an outbreak like that. And the third one is most positive, that we are pushing to try and get a vaccine as soon as possible. We actually have some tests that have started a few days ago with one vaccine, and we are hoping to get results as quickly as possible as well. So where Israel's standing right now, the average age of patients that died are over 80. The capacity in hospitals are less than 5%, which means that we still have a lot of room to receive more patients or critical patients. It means right now we are facing only 9,000 people who are sick with coronavirus, while only 113 are hospitalized with ventilators. Those numbers are extremely low. We're very happy with it, and we are now starting to ease up the restrictions that we have built. I think that one of the things that's the most important is medical research and treatment information. That is vital that we share it. We share this information with the international community. This cooperation between the different countries will definitely bring the end of it as quickly as possible, will bring as many treatments as possible, or the quicker treatment as possible for the patients as well. We have now, I think, as an international community, a very big responsibility on freedom of information. I think that what happened with China when we did not receive the true information. They were hiding information, distorting some of the cases that were reported. And while they were closing their inner border whilst keep on opening their international border, we need to keep in mind the severity or the importance of what it means to have freedom of information and freedom of press, not just in our countries, but in many more countries. It brings it much closer to home, while another country on the other side of the world might affect our family and our death tolls in our own countries as well. Israel today is considered one of the safest places to be during this pandemic. It is because some extreme measures that we have counted for, that we have put in place in the last couple of months, those safety that we have put through, including, for example, house lockdowns, people that were not allowed to leave their house. You were only allowed to leave about 100 to 500 meters around your home. Obviously, schools are all shut down. There's no school programs really, and many families are left with their children at home to take care, which means that they cannot go to work as well. We have stopped international transportation as a measure of making sure that there's not more sick patients that are coming into Israel, infecting Israelis as well. We've stopped public transportation, and the government is managing hospitals and healthcare providers really, really well. They're getting all their instructions throughout the government, and they trickles down straight into those providers and those hospitals. So everybody are getting the newest information, the newest research constantly all the time. One of the major issues is obviously the business shutdown that we are experiencing right now here in Israel. Because there are no schools, because businesses were not allowed to be open, it created a very big toll on our economy. Obviously, naturally, we are managing it well, but it has received a big hit. We are now starting to ease up because our numbers have gone extremely low in the last 2 weeks. So we're starting to ease it up, but we have to remember, businesses are in serious need of help. We have more than 600,000 owners, freelancers, business owners that are in risk of losing their businesses. We have more than 1 million people who are right now on unemployment payments, which means it creates a heavy toll on our treasury. Just to remind you, Israel is only 8.5 million citizens. So those numbers might seem to you very low, while here in Israel, they are extremely, extremely high. One of the cities that have suffered the most was Eilat. Eilat right now, for example, have more than 70% unemployment. This is a major tourist city where all the hotels were shut down, and it has created somewhat of a ghost city, and it has got a serious hit as well that we have to rehabilitate in the next few months as well. Obviously, Israel, in our mentality, I might say we are partially used to state of emergencies. So the people are quite, they're listening to the instructions for the government. They understand the severity of the situation, and they care for their community, not wanting to infecting one another. But this economical crisis, I believe that has sort of started, will become bigger and bigger in the next couple of months as well. So obviously, yesterday we have commemorated and remembered Yom HaShoah as well. it's a little bit more difficult for me to celebrate Yom HaShoah today, as I lost my grandmother. She was a Holocaust survivor, her and my grandfather. And as an incredible woman who was part of the underground in south of France, who's been part of, coming to Israel and rebuilding our incredible country, she's been one of the figures that has impacted me the most. I think that my grandmother's biggest victory going through all of that is the foundation of a strong, independent state and a big family tree, obviously. Her generation was an idealist and a true dreamer. That generation was a true generation with a vision, true Zionist. They could see forward and see how we can transform and found this incredible country called Israel, building the only Jewish state that can continue to defend our people, our culture, our religion, and defend liberties all around our region. Her work and the work that she does really remind me a lot of the work that JNF and true Zionists and dreamers are doing today. And this is why it's so important for me as well to stay in such a close contact with your organization. Your projects are absolutely incredible. They bring a lot of hope to children and family here in Israel. Some of your projects like Alen Negev, I might say on another note that during the coronavirus, all of the education system was shut down, including the special care of children with autism. Alen Negev, one of the biggest projects of JNF, continued to protect them, to be with them. So while other was in regression, and we have put it back because we have seen the tragedies that have happened in a few homes, Alen Negev has been an incredible light in all of that, for those children, for those adults, for those parents. Some of those projects like you are doing in the north, to make sure to secure jobs, to secure tourism in the future, are really giving hope to those local citizens there. But not just during those routinely projects that you do. Also those projects that you've been doing during these lockdowns, all of the hundreds of Seder packs that you have provided for families, special care, food that you've delivered, so many incredible projects that you've done during the last months that have not just cheered up, but really gave hope and to be honest, sort of a stability for those communities, especially those faraway communities that are far away from the center. So I see your work as a true work of angels. Maybe not, it is a work of angel, but to be honest, it's really the work of true Zionists, of dreamers, a continuation of those generations throughout our history who have not just rebuilt and kept our nation and our people strong, but had a vision of the future and what incredible things we can do as a community. So on a personal note, I would like to send from here really, really warm blessings and prayer, and a huge thank you for all of your staff, for all of your donors, for all of your members of your of the Jewish National Fund.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for your words and for staying late at the Knesset to speak with us today. Thank you, Sharon, and thank you for all of your words and for staying late at the Knesset today to share your information with us. It was nice to hear from you, and we hope to welcome you to Texas very soon. Thank you, Susan, for your inspiring call to action. And once again, thank you to all of you for joining Gail and I and the JNF today. Please consider joining us in the Women for Israel Society by pledging a minimum gift of $360 through the JNF website or by calling the JNF office at 512-410-1438. So Gail and I thank you for being with us today. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you very much.